the Orlando Magic are in trouble. Even with the return of Paolo Banchero, this team has looked a little underwhelming. But we got to get into why. And the biggest thing I want to talk about first is Paolo and his game. He just came off a huge game against the Warriors, obviously. And even then, right, Paolo's going to have moments like this where it's nice and easy. But I think Paolo is a tough shot taker and not necessarily the best tough shot maker, right? Like, so even if we look here, right, this is a good screen by Wendell Carter. You argue at this point he probably should have made this pass, right? But he settles and takes a shot. And it's tough because, again, you want Paolo to be back in that rhythm, right? But then you have moments like this where he's able to then get the ball back, does a good job, waits, pivots, sees that Okongwu doesn't adjust for Carter Jr. and gets the easy oop, right? So I think with Paolo, things are looking a little rough. So he's averaging 23, 7, and 5. 42 from the field, 29 from 3 on 6 a game, which is atrocious, and then 68 from the line. Now, again, Paolo's going to be left wide open here for 3, and then you have a moment like this. Now, do I expect him to miss every wide open 3? Hell no. But I think Paolo's shot diet being primarily mid-range and him not necessarily being that great at it is a little concerning. I think part of the problem is, and we're going to get into it towards the end of the video, again, the shot creation for Paolo and even Franz, who we'll talk about coming up, right? Like, you got 12 seconds, 11, 10 seconds, right? Like, there's not a lot of time here. There's not a lot he can try and help facilitate to create. He's got to just put something up and hope that it works, right? And again, I think Paolo is going to fix it. Like, there's a middle ground. Do I think Paolo is as bad as some of the low games he's had this year? Absolutely not. Do I think he is going to consistently be what he was last night? Absolutely not. There's a happy middle ground. I think at his best, he'll probably average 27 to 28. He'll give you the 7 to 8 boards a night. He can maybe get it up to 6 assists. And again, I think the shot selection and diet and how he gets there just needs to drastically improve. It's been a problem. It will continue to be a problem for now, right? And when Paolo moves in transition, he looks way better, right? Because he's able to just kind of use his athleticism, use his natural abilities, and move quickly. Not that he's a bad decision maker. I mean, we saw it in the playoffs last year. Like, he was the one. He was one of the rare decision makers. And moments like this here, right? You can see he's trying to draw the foul, right? But he could have tried and just gone up with it. But again, this doesn't help when when your team is 28th in offense, right? Like, at some point, you have to be able to consistently generate a bucket. And at this point, the methodology of how they're doing it isn't working. And again, I think Orlando will be better. I think the problem is, and that's why I talked about them being losers at the trade deadline, they should have made a move. This roster is not good enough offensively. They need to have some talent. This only defense thing is not going to work, right? And again, Paolo looks really good in transition, which is why them having the number 2 defense in the league, incredibly helpful. Right? Moments like that, awesome. But there's also a lot of moments like we saw earlier where he's going to, get the screen here from KCP. And then he tries to get it and he waits and he gets back up, which is nice. But again, he has a lot of moments where, like, again, this is a tough shot, but he makes it. He's a tough shot taker. I'm just not sure he has proven himself to be a consistently tough shot maker. Which is going to be very important when you're trying to build this team towards a championship. And speaking of that, we need to talk about the number 2 option, Franz Wagner. Now, Franz has technically been having his best season, averaging 25, 6, and 5 on 47 from the field, 31 from 3 on 6 a game, which is terrible, and then 85 from the line. And again, I think Franz and Paolo are a good duo, but they remind me of Tatum and Brown, in that they almost have to, like, take turns / they need a point guard. Just point blank period. They need a point guard. I don't care who it is, but they need someone. who can distribute, create, and help, right? Like, these are just bad shots here by this team. And again, there's nothing that you can do about it. Like, you deal with this, right? And then Jonathan Isaac's going, he gets it up. You got 12 seconds, and Franz is taking, some of these are tough, but some of these are good. Now, Franz has actually statistically been better in the mid-range than Paolo. But Franz, again, Franz gets to his game a lot easier than Paolo does. Franz knows where he wants to get and how he wants to get there. And Paolo at times it seems like he very much improvises where he's going, versus Franz can like just settle down, wait it out, and then he's going to get you where you want and try and, he's going to try and kill you. He's going to try and make his buckets. But again, these two alone are not good enough offensive generators. They do not have 3-point shooters around them. So now you're trying to see these two guys who are good isolation scorers, but that's it, right? They're not necessarily the best at catch and shoot. They're not necessarily the best at their handle or their shot creation. It's literally them having to ISO and nobody to really help spot them get there. Again, it's similar in a way to the Pistons with Cade, like in the last couple of years, where like the idea was there's only so much you can do. So ultimately, I believe these two ball handlers are stuck in a very tough spot because they have to not only create for themselves now, which at times they cannot consistently do, quite frankly, but now you also got to generate for others. Paolo and Franz are the team's leading assist leaders at 5. That's not good. At all. Like, that's a tough benchmark. And then we're going to get into the final part. The lack of a true point guard and their lack of 3-point shooting. So the first part I want to talk about is their lack of a true point guard. So I'm going to show some clips here of assists from Jalen Suggs and Anthony Black. And again, their lack of shooting. So there's only one player on the team who is above 35% from 3. And it's Mo Wagner, who's played 20 games and averaged 2 threes a game. Like 2 3 attempts. That's their best 3-point shooter. Everybody else is below that benchmark. They are on pace to be, I believe in the last 25 years, to be the 3rd worst 3-point shooting team in basketball. This team cannot buy a bucket. Now, I'm not saying they got to become the Warriors and become hyper efficient and so much of their volume becomes that. No. But what I am saying is, ultimately, they need to do something differently. And again, I've said this before, they need to try and get a true point guard, right? So you're going to get moments like this with Suggs where he does a good job, right, doing this create for the cut by Tristan Da Silva. And again, I think guys like Suggs are good secondary to third, playmaker or passer, but that should never be your primary guy. When that's your primary ball handler, at times, again, it's like a worse Celtics. This team doesn't have a true point guard. It doesn't have someone to help facilitate for them. They are struggling to generate offense on the perimeter. And it's not like Suggs is a very good shooter consistently. So, again, you're having guys that can't necessarily create for themselves, have to create for others, and have to hope they respect the others, quite frankly. And they don't. Right? Like, why am I respecting these guys who can't shoot from the field, who are terrible from 3? Why should I respect you? Including that ball handler. Jalen Suggs is not Steph Curry. He's not even Seth Curry in terms of a shooter, right? They don't have that creator. And I think it's just obvious. I'm not even going to waste the time with the Anthony Black clips. I think it's clear. Well, there's 2 things that's clear. One is you need to like, comment, subscribe. Let's get to 2K. And I think it's clear at this point they need a true point guard. I believe they are in the camp they should go and get Trae Young. I'm not that high on Trae personally. However, for this team, it's something they need. If not Trae Young, I'm not even sure who. But you gotta try something. Because at this point, it's not working. This whole, like, Franz and Paolo can generate and be the primary ball handlers, and it's not working. You're not going to win. They're struggling right now to be a guaranteed playoff spot. They're number 7 in the East, right? Which, I mean, the rest of the East isn't very good, so they'll stay there probably. But now, even if they make it, they're going to get smoked by whoever they play in that first round. This team, I think, this season, I think, has revealed to this team there's a lot more they need to really do. This whole staying pat and, oh, we're just going to pick up whatever role players the Nuggets dump off onto us. Like, no. Go and get yourself a legitimate point guard. This whole young guard, Jalen Suggs at the one, it's not working. So as always, guys, this was Mr. Knows Hoops. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you guys think about the Magic and what they can do to improve. Have a beautiful rest of your day, guys. Peace out.